Welcome back to the channel Coin Dealer, one of the most fascinating stories in numismatics, a tale that combines history, human error, minting technology, and the incredible world of rare coin collecting, because today we are talking about the legendary 1991 1-cent coin from the United States that has been said to reach a staggering value of up to $14 million, which is an amount that immediately raises eyebrows considering that the face value of this coin is merely a single cent. Yet because of the combination of striking errors, minute mint mark peculiarities, and the curiosity of collectors who treasure anomalies, the humble penny transforms into a jewel of rarity and intrigue. And to truly understand why a small copper-plated zinc coin minted in Denver could ever command such a price, we need to look at the way the US Mint operates, the kind of mistakes that sometimes slip through production lines, and how those errors take on a life of their own in the secondary market, where scarcity and mystery inflate value beyond imagination. Because in 1991 the Denver Mint, just like the Philadelphia and San Francisco facilities, was producing billions of coins under intense schedules, yet once in a while an accident occurs, like a misaligned die, a doubled strike, or an incorrect planchette being used. And when such accidents remain unnoticed during quality control, the coin enters circulation and starts its long journey of discovery. But in some extraordinary cases, a coin surfaces that bears errors so unusual that collectors consider it a once-in-a-lifetime find, and that is where the 1991 penny comes in, as there are reports of examples that show off-center striking, doubled lettering, mismatched metallic composition, or most intriguingly a misplaced or malformed mint mark where the teeth for Denver appears oddly shaped, shifted, or impressed in a way that defies the standard. And in the world of coin collecting, the mint mark is one of the most scrutinized details because its position, font, and striking depth are markers that tell a story of how careful or careless the minting process was on that day. So when you combine the excitement of a recognizable error with the fact that such coins are nearly impossible to replicate convincingly without detection, collectors become willing to pay astronomical sums, and the price spirals as rarity is compounded by legend. Because the story of a penny worth millions spreads far beyond numismatic circles and captures the imagination of the general public, making the coin almost mythical. And when you think about it, the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $14 million rarity is nothing but a mixture of metallurgy, human mistake, historical context, and demand, yet this mixture is powerful enough to create fortunes. And though most 1991 pennies in your pocket change are worth exactly 1 cent or perhaps slightly more if they are uncirculated examples in pristine condition, the extraordinary error coins sit in a completely different universe of value, and experts have speculated that certain 1991 pennies might have been struck on experimental planchets or using leftover blanks from a different denomination, which would explain why some specimens weigh slightly differently than the expected 2.5 grams for a modern copper-plated zinc cent. And when coin graders at professional services encounter these anomalies, they assign designations like off metal error or wrong planchette, classifications that instantly elevate the coin to treasure status. And the mythology surrounding these rare pieces only grows as auction houses report sales where wealthy collectors compete fiercely to add them to their holdings, because owning such a coin is not merely about having a rare piece of metal. It is about possessing a slice of history and the thrill of knowing that only a handful of people on the planet can ever claim to own such an error. And in this context, the 1991 penny valued at $14 million becomes a perfect case study of how value in collectibles is not tied to utility but to rarity, narrative, and passion, as every scratch, misstrike, or misplaced mark tells a story of human error intersecting with mechanical process, frozen forever in a coin smaller than a thumb. And the excitement for collectors is that there is always a possibility, however remote, that one of these coins could still be hiding in a jar of change, a forgotten drawer, or a bank roll waiting to be unwrapped. Because unlike rare artwork or luxury cars that are easily tracked, coins circulate freely and blend into the mass of common change, giving hope to treasure hunters who check every penny they come across, and that hope fuels the legend further. So when you hear that a 1991 penny could command up to $14 million, it is not just about metal content or design. It is about an extraordinary confluence of errors, mystery, scarcity, and human fascination. And whether or not you personally come across such a piece, understanding the reasons behind its value gives us all a deeper appreciation of how something as ordinary as a penny can, through the quirks of production and the eyes of collectors, transcend its face value and become a fortune in copper and zinc. world of rare coins and hidden treasures that may just be sitting in your pocket change, and in this discussion we are focusing on one of the most unbelievable and intriguing stories in numismatics, the 1983 1-cent penny from the United States that has been valued by collectors and experts for an extraordinary sum reaching up to $39 million, a number that seems impossible when compared to its humble face value of just 1 cent, yet the truth is that certain mistakes, minting errors, and unusual anomalies can turn an ordinary coin into something so valuable that it captures the imagination of collectors worldwide, and the 1983 penny is a perfect example of how a small copper-plated zinc coin, normally overlooked in daily transactions, can become legendary because of its rare characteristics. To understand why this penny is so valuable, we first need to look at the context of the year it was produced, as in 1982 the United States Mint transitioned from making pennies primarily out of copper to making them mostly out of zinc with a thin copper plating in order to save on rising metal costs, and this change brought about many transitional errors, with some coins being struck using leftover copper planchets and some showing variations in weight, thickness, or strike quality, and when such anomalies occur during a period of change at the mint, the chances of creating coins that are different from the norm increase dramatically, which is exactly what makes coins like the 1983 penny so special. The most sought-after versions of the 1983 penny are those that were struck on the wrong metal planchet, meaning that instead of being produced with the new zinc core, they were struck on leftover copper blanks weighing about 3.1 grams instead of the expected 2.5 grams for a zinc penny, and collectors immediately recognize this weight difference as a signal of rarity, because it is estimated that only a tiny fraction of all 1983 pennies were made this way, and as with any collectible, rarity combined with demand drives the value upward, sometimes to astronomical levels. But the intrigue does not stop there, because some 1983 pennies also exhibit doubling errors, known as double die strikes, where the design on the coin, such as the lettering in God We Trust or Liberty or the date itself, appears to be stamped twice slightly offset, creating a ghostly shadow effect that is not intended but highly prized. And when you combine a double die with a transitional metal error, you have a perfect storm of factors that make the coin nearly priceless in the eyes of passionate collectors. Another important factor to consider is the mint mark, which is the tiny letter on a coin that tells you where it was minted, such as D for Denver or no mint mark at all for Philadelphia, and certain combinations of mint mark placement, size, or absence can lead to unique and extremely rare variants, and with the 1983 penny, some varieties have been discovered with unusual mint mark errors or missing details, further enhancing their uniqueness and appeal. Imagine the thrill of finding one of these coins in circulation, turning over a penny that looks ordinary at first glance only to discover that it is made of copper when it should not be, that it has doubled lettering when it should not, or that its mint mark does not align with standard production, and suddenly you are holding in your hand a piece of history worth millions, a story that has actually happened for some incredibly lucky individuals. What makes this narrative even more captivating is that millions of 1983 pennies were minted, yet only a handful of error coins with these rare features have been authenticated, meaning the odds of finding one are astronomically low, but the possibility is always there, fueling treasure hunters and hobbyists to carefully weigh and examine every penny they come across, hoping for that life-changing discovery. The valuation of $39 million may sound exaggerated at first, but when you consider the dynamics of high-end auctions, wealthy collectors vying to own a once-in-a-lifetime coin, and the fact that such a specimen is essentially one of a kind, the value becomes less about the actual cent and more about the symbolism, rarity, and historical significance. And in the collectibles market, such symbolic value often translates into enormous monetary worth. Furthermore, the 1983 penny's fame is not just about money, it is about how a mistake can create beauty, how human error at the mint can unintentionally craft a masterpiece that outlives its creators and becomes a legend, and this fascination drives people to study, collect, and treasure coins far beyond their face value. Every tiny detail matters, from the luster and strike quality to the weight and composition, and even a microscopic flaw can set a coin apart, and the 1983 penny embodies all these aspects rolled into one small copper disc. For those who are new to coin collecting, this story is also a reminder that valuable treasures do not always come in the form of gold bars or diamond jewelry. Sometimes they come disguised as the most ordinary item in your pocket change, and the only thing that separates a $1 million coin from a 1-cent coin is the knowledge to recognize what you are holding. The tale of the 1983 penny valued at $39 million continues to inspire not only seasoned collectors but also everyday people, teaching us to look closer at the details of our world, to appreciate history, and to understand that mistakes can sometimes be the most valuable of all. And so whenever you come across an old penny, especially one from 1983, take a moment to weigh it. Examine its details under a magnifying glass, and imagine the possibility that you might be holding one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever minted in the history of the United States, a coin that defies its face value and proves that sometimes even the smallest object can carry the biggest story. Today's exciting deep dive into one of the most fascinating and mysterious treasures in American coinage history, the 1980 1-cent penny from the United States of America that has been reported and rumored in collecting circles as being worth as much as $25 million, an astonishing figure compared to its simple face value of just 1 cent. And the story behind why such a coin could even reach this legendary level of valuation has everything to do with errors, minting mistakes, die variations, and the rare possibility of a mint mark error that elevates an otherwise ordinary copper-coated zinc coin into an item that collectors and investors worldwide would battle fiercely to own. So let's unravel why this unassuming penny from Denver could hold a place among the most valuable coins in existence. Because when we think of American coinage in the 1980s, most people imagine billions of common pennies struck for circulation, coins that are practically overlooked in everyday transactions. Yet the world of numismatics thrives on the unexpected, and it only takes one dramatic error or one set of unusual circumstances at the mint for a single coin to become not just rare but nearly priceless. And in the case of the 1980 penny, reports of double dies, off-center strikes, planchet errors, and especially the possibility of a missing or misstamped mint mark have turned this simple Lincoln cent into a legendary conversation piece, because the Denver Mint, which struck hundreds of millions of pennies in 1980, was using dies that could wear down, misalign, or accidentally receive improper punches, and when that happens, coins slip through with striking characteristics unlike any other, and collectors understand that error coins, especially dramatic ones, are extremely scarce and can command fortunes at auctions. With past examples like the 1943 copper penny or the 1955 double die proving that the tiniest minting mishaps can produce coins valued in the millions. So when a 1980 penny shows evidence of unusual features, perhaps a double date, a misaligned mint mark, or a strike through from foreign material on the die, experts start paying attention, and the idea that a particular 1980 penny could combine several of these anomalies into one piece makes its theoretical value skyrocket, because value in numismatics is tied not just to age but to rarity, demand, and the story behind the coin, and nothing fuels demand like a narrative of a coin that escaped the mint under impossible odds, 1 in a billion, and has survived decades in circulation or storage to be discovered and celebrated. And as people hear stories of a 1980 penny worth $25 million, they are drawn into the thrill of checking their pocket change, hunting through old jars of coins, and imagining that treasure might be hidden in plain sight, because error coins like these bridge the worlds of history, manufacturing, chance, and human fascination. And while not every 1980 penny is worth more than a cent, the extraordinary example or examples that display a combination of errors such as off-center strikes with full dates, double dies where Lincoln's profile appears shadowed or distorted, and particularly if the D mint mark shows signs of a mispunch or rotation or even absence, could create the perfect storm for collectors willing to pay extraordinary sums. Since collectors compete fiercely for one-of-a-kind items, and the 1980 penny that exhibits these traits could be seen not just as a coin but as a masterpiece of minting mishap, an artifact of American history frozen in metal, and once authenticated and publicized, the rarity feeds upon itself, as fewer comparable specimens unknown and more demand builds around this single cent, making it plausible for private deals or auction houses to push values into the tens of millions, echoing past sales of unique coins like the 1933 double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar. So when enthusiasts discuss a 1980 penny valued at $25 million, they are really reflecting on the extraordinary intersection of rarity, error, mythology, and collector psychology. And whether or not every reported value is precise, the fact remains that coins like this prove how something designed as the humblest unit of currency can, by chance and error, transform into one of the most celebrated objects in the collecting world, inspiring endless searches, countless hours of examination, and dreams of unexpected wealth hidden in the most ordinary places. So keep an eye out, because while billions of 1980 pennies are ordinary, that 1 in a billion specimen with the perfect error combination might still be out there waiting to astonish the world, and that is the allure of coin collecting, where a single cent can indeed be worth millions simply because of the rarest mistakes imaginable.